I echo Rob's appreciation to the outstanding speakers today. I think every one of these talks I've been able to take some nuggets away to chew on and think about. From Brian Kabilka this morning, this notion of being able to really dissect molecular mechanisms behind mu-opioid receptor signaling, and it's the G-protein receptor coupling partners, and being able to tease out the analgesic versus the addictive versus the respiratory suppression, and being able to do meticulous molecular dissection of those things was a real level of insight. I was telling Rob or somebody during one of the breaks that to me that's one of the most beautiful and potentially impactful uses of structural biology that I've seen. Not that I'm an expert in structural biology, but it was impressive. Valerie Voon, it was a tour de force about the brain networks underlying addiction. And these brain networks, so often in human brain, you feel like you can admire what's going on and see all these correlations, but you can't, that it doesn't often have predictive value. But she was showing us some examples where looking at the networks may actually have predictive value over what an addiction state or alcohol consumption state is going to be like down the road 2 years, which I found really interesting. Tino Cuellar, I'm in love with this notion of an agency, a federal agency for unintended consequences. But Tino is he's such a even-keeled, middle of the road, balancing concerns kind of guy, and he supplied us with a real reminder that I think moral and ethical questions that the law has to grapple with may not always have scientific answers, and I would say may rarely have scientific answers, actually. And it's something that I think we have to keep in mind. And with Lenny Bernstein, we academics get in our towers and solving our puzzles and having our arguments. And sometimes we lose sight or lose contact with real people and real families who are suffering from things like the opioid crisis. And Lenny, I think, took us right out to the front lines with some of that. And a common theme, both from Tino looking at it from the law and from Lenny looking at it from a reporter's standpoint, was how do these structures arise in democratic countries that that such a crisis can get so big before we even become aware of it, much less do something about it. And I think both of their perspectives on that were very valuable, and I really appreciate Keith Humphrey's his modulation, his moderating of those two conversations. Yasmin Hurd was, that was pretty remarkable to me. I had not heard her speak before, but looking to human tissue and comparing gene expression, and post-mortem tissue to get clues between the differences in brains that have been addicted for long periods of time versus normal, and using that as a way in. I mean, I'm so accustomed to hearing genetics talks, right? And looking at Manhattan plots to get clues for the way in, but actually to looking and comparing the brains as a way into a system and see the beautiful use that she's been making of that was wonderful. George was good. I don't know if I can learn to pronounce that word. Hypercataphilia, capitikia, blah, blah, blah. Those were just beautiful data on the CRF, the corticotropin releasing factor, right? And just knocking off the excess drinking and no more, keep me maybe to 1 glass of wine rather than 3, or if I took some of that stuff. And Brian asked the $64,000 question at the end, and that's still frustratingly difficult to answer, but it seems like you're getting close to something really important there. And Marina's talk at the end, I mean, I've never thought about the hippocampus as being particularly involved in stress. I mean, take a patient like HM, and elevated stress is not really a big feature of what you hear about HM. But the data that she presented really has to make you stop and think about the hippocampus and the way it interacts with these other sort of midbrain and lower forebrain structures in new ways. So I found this just to be fantastic and really worthwhile, and I'm so glad we do this, and even though it's challenging circumstances, I really appreciate all of you being here. And there are people that I want to thank, and if we can cue up the thank you slide, I think we have up here. So first of all, none of this would have happened without Rob and Keith and Brian. Rob especially took this one by the horns and really aggressively sort of put this program together and got our speakers lined up with Keith's help and Brian's help, and they, as the three co-leaders of our Big Ideas project on neuro choice, this is really their bread and butter, and I think the symposium was beautifully organized. The executive committee, you've seen us up here throughout the day today. None of this would be happening. The Institute wouldn't be here without the hard work of the executive committee. Special thanks to Donna Braun, who's not here today, but has done a ton of behind the work scene in pulling this event off. Melissa Hagel, who's our main liaison with LKSC events organization here, AVT Projections, in charge of our AV stuff. And then this team here on the lower left, I can't say enough about. This is the WUSI staff, and when we put on an event like this, it's an all hands on deck thing. So you've got financial specialists up here, you've got our community lab director up here, you've got all of these people, and you've seen them around. Plus there were some volunteers. Renee I saw around today from Brian's lab, I think, and this is a really special group of people who I have a chance to work with, week in and week out, and who do the everyday hard and thoughtful work and do it conscientiously that keeps the Institute running and keeps our wheels turning. And there's a name missing up here. Well, Tanya's name is up here, but she's in Italy bicycling right now. So this was the best date for the speakers, and Tanya had this pre-existing commitment. This is the first symposium we've ever done without Tanya. But Jill Wenzel has been a star here. She's been absolutely fantastic. Jill, where are you? There she is back there. Why don't you come up here for a moment? We actually have a special gift for you. Oh. Thank you so much. This woman has really worked hard this week, and she's done it, in the weeks, for months leading up to this. But there's been, a COVID scare at the children's school, and there was doubt whether she'd even be able to be here at some point, but that all came out well. And Jill, just thank you so much. Jill she has such a huge sense of quality and really a can-do attitude about delivering things here, and does it with aplomb and with, a beautiful attitude. And thank you so much, Jill. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I also want to call out Nick Weiler, who did a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff with our graphics and with organizing communications. Some of you, Nick's still newish with us. Some of you may not know him. Is he still here? There he is. I would stand up, Nick, and let people see you. Nick is a graduate of our PhD program, actually. And all the other members of the team. I mean, Tim, Nicole is brand new with us. She just started this week, and you guys will be getting to know Nicole. But everyone up here has worked very hard this week, and thanks all of you for everything you've done. So there are refreshments out in the foyer, variety of libations and snacks and things. There are posters that are set up. You've seen some of them that are out here in the foyer, but also right across that wall are posters. So just spend a nice hour here, refreshing yourselves and taking advantage of being in person. Those of you who are in person here, this is something, we can do that we haven't been able to do for a year and a half. And it's great to see all of you here, and thank you for being here today.